Have you ever noticed whenever you attend a USC practice, there's always a goat hanging around? Always a goat hanging out. On day 7 of fall camp, that goat's name was Marqise Lee.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, you can pick a platform, you can download this podcast. This show is always going to be free. This show is always going to appreciate your support. Yeah, it's day 7 of fall camp, 1 week in the books. And you know what? Did a little bit of a schedule switch up on the media here. The night before, day 7, we got an email saying, hey, it's being moved to 6:45 p.m. So far, all the practices, at least that the media's attended, have been in the morning, early morning wake-ups. So they decided to change it up. The night before, day 6, the team was actually in full pads, under the lights, getting a little bit of a scrimmage in. Day 7, they returned to shorts and shells, but they're under the lights at least, right? I'm going to give you a few mea culpas from me in this episode of Locked On USC. Here's my first one. By the way, new lid, got this at the bookstore today. I love trucker hats, and I like this design specifically, so let me know. It's on sale for any of you who want to grab one. What do you know? Bookstore, USC. Check it out. Mea culpa number 1. I prefer the early morning practices better than the ones that are scheduled later in the evening, 6:45, especially if the media is only going to get to watch the first 20 minutes, the conditioning portion of practice. Some of the position groups doing their individual drills, nothing of any consequence, right? So, yeah, the reason why is I would prefer getting up early in the morning and not dealing with the heat and the humidity, as well as not having to no practice is going to end well after 9 p.m. and then have to start working at 10:30 in the evening, whatever, by the time you get home. So yeah, I know that sounds a little selfish and sounds a little whiny, but hey, got to get that off my chest. So yeah, it was kind of warm too. I think it was the warmest day that I've been at practice so far this fall camp. Obviously, first one in the afternoon. The temperature said 81 degrees, but also said 51% humidity. Not a fan. Not a fan. And I don't know, do goats like hot, humid days? I don't know. Do goats like that type of weather? I mentioned there was a goat at practice. His name Marqise Lee. Yeah, he was just kind of hanging out there on the sidewalk. I know that guy. So yeah, it was kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see Marqise Lee hanging out there. I was able to. We talked for like 2 minutes. We were both standing in the shade near G.O.A.T.S. I wasn't standing in my normal spot in front of the Trojan sword, taking a video and all that kind of good stuff. But there was a cool little moment there where Marqise saw Jamal Jarrett walk by. Big Jamal Jarrett. And Lee was like, whoa. He was like super impressed by what he saw. He kind of looked at me all bug-eyed and he's like, man, that guy's huge. I said, Marqise, you played with, some guys that size when you were at USC. You kind of sheepishly like, yeah, you're right. Well, out of curiosity, I decided I'm going to go check out a couple of rosters that he was on, 2011, 2012. Yeah, there wasn't anybody on USC's defensive side of the ball with that size of a Jaw Jarrett or even a Keyshawn Silver. The closest you would get, you have to look to the offensive side of the ball. O-line, guys like Zach Banner. That's where you get guys that are close to Jamal Jarrett's size. I was kind of shocked. I really thought there was somebody. I don't know why I thought maybe like a George Uko was bigger, but yeah, it was Antoine Woods. Yeah, he was the guy, and he's not nearly as tall as Jaw Jarrett, but he had the same type of girth weight, but he still was giving up at least 30 pounds based on the USC roster I was looking at. So yeah, practice started at 6:45. At 6 o'clock, I saw no players. 0 players. Like, where's everybody? Where are the scooters? Where's everybody arriving to practice? And I was there early. I was there before 6 o'clock. But 10 minutes later, here comes Mr. Consistency, kicker Ryan Seri. He's always the first one out. Interesting. Usually there's crossing guards that make sure the players can, walk 7, 8, 9, 10 yards across McClintock Boulevard into Howard Jones Field through G.O.A.T.S. There were no crossing guards, and USC almost paid the price for this. Obviously, there was a scheduling conflict. Guys didn't get the memo. You have to be there for the evening practice. Jaden Ramos, freshman defensive lineman, he almost got hit by a car. And it would have been Jaden's fault. I got to be honest. So he had already passed through G.O.A.T.S. He was inside practice. And I don't know, maybe he forgot something. He was wearing everything he needed, helmet, pads, yada, yada, yada. But he comes darting out of the practice facility like a kid chasing his ball across the street. And there was already a car at that stop sign. And he was stopped. But he was ready to accelerate towards Jefferson Boulevard when all of a sudden, here comes Jaden. Fortunately, the driver was aware and catastrophe averted. But yeah, it was close. It was close. The referees, they were back at practice. This kind of caught my attention. Luke Heward and Big Mike Williams and Dennis Simmons all walking to practice together. Looked like the three amigos without the costume. Look, one of the age-old questions, right? If you're old enough, you will understand this analogy. The world is still trying to figure out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. I am trying to figure out, right? I still do not to this day will ever understand how a football player can leave the locker room ready to practice. They got their jersey on, but they forget their shoulder pads. I'm not going to tell you who, but yeah, here comes a player. I got to go back to the locker room. Forgot my shoulder pads. I'm thinking, your ankles are taped up over your cleats. So you've got, you got other braces on. How do you forget your shoulder pads? This is what's going on in my head. How does this happen? So yeah, when they figure out the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop mystery, we'll probably find the answer to how football players forget stuff on their way to practice. Let me say this. The more I watch the return specialists, the punt returners, kick returners, when they're going through their drills during the conditioning part of practice, the more I want to see Makai Lemon give up punt return duties. I'm going to talk about that in the third segment, but yeah, it might be that time. Again, I'll explain why in the third segment. The USC punters, look, they might be good enough that they can even make their shanked punts, the kicks that I don't know, maybe they were intending to shank them, but the returners turned it into a drill because if the kicks were, too short, couldn't catch up, to make the catch, you had to kind of judge the bounce or go into obnoxious communication that Coach Lynn has always spoken about, giving direction. Hey, whatever the word is for the, I guess the gunners, the blockers to kind of move aside so they don't, touch the ball and turn it over. So that was something that was going on with the punt returners. I love how Coach Trumaine Carroll ends the stretch portion of conditioning. Basically, the guys, they're on their knees at this point. At least they're on one knee. They're kind of doing a stretch, one arm over the head, and you're twisting. Well, when they're done, they get on both feet. Everyone puts on their helmet, and they go into a cadence type of jumping jacks with the Trojans spell out. When that ends, it's everybody just kind of runs. There's a real big, huge team huddle. But Elijah Vicona, he let out one of those Jacoby Lane type of practice alarm sounds. I talked about how Jacoby, when he arrives to practice, smacks the top of G.O.A.T., lets out a primal scream. Mount Vicona erupted. I think that's going to be his nickname, Mount Vicona. He's a mountain of a man. And yes, he is a man. When you're 6'8", 360 plus, and you got a beard, I don't care if you're 18, you're a man. He's huge. Yeah, I don't know who was in charge of practice, in charge of the music selection, but plus one, it was old school day. I mean, I love the vibe. You had Cameo, you had Bobby Brown, you had Midnight Star, Wet My Whistle. Look, if you're my age, you've heard of Cameo, right? You've heard of the song Candy. That song is older than everybody on that practice field except for me and maybe a handful of others. But that didn't bother the players. They were dancing. Yeah, Lane, Lemon, a few of the others, while they were standing in line waiting to take their turn on the air routes. And they were working on their footwork, dancing to Cameo. It's kind of funny. And yes, Jacoby Lane back at practice, taking part in those drills. So now he was able to run the routes. He was dancing to Cameo. He was coaching up the younger players. He had a lot on his plate. He was doing everything. Here's another mea culpa from me. I caught myself singing along to Cameo. It's a good song. Come on now. Got to watch the linebackers doing their thing. By the way, Anthony Beavers, he looks like a full-time veteran linebacker. He is sneaky big. And he might have one of the biggest helmets on the roster. He's got a big head. He looks like a man out there, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So I get the wide receivers working on their footwork, doing a little dance, listen to Cameo. I don't know if I was prepared to watch the linebackers doing a TikTok viral dance to Bobby Brown. But yeah, and I think they were working on their choreography because they had their leg kicked down, they had their pirouette perfectly timed. When they weren't doing that, Rob Ryan had them working with the heavy ball, the medicine ball. If you've ever watched basketball players practice, one of the drills I would teach when I was a basketball coach is you had the guys, I don't know, about 5 to 10 yards spread apart, and they would do quick chest passes, and they would do a lateral motion from sideline to sideline, just work on quick passes. Well, try doing that with a medicine ball, but you don't get to catch it. You have to push it back like a volleyball player. That's what Rob Ryan had to do. It was all about, working with heavy hands, getting into it, feeling that impact. And they did the same thing with the heavy punching bag that I talked about before as well. On tomorrow's episode, I have video. I will roll that video behind me when I'm talking. Didn't have time to get that uploaded. It's late here in the evening. Again, it's one of the reasons why I don't like these evening practices. It just throws my time clock completely off. DJ Harvey working with the safeties, doing when they were hitting the blocking sled. The nickel position works with the safety group, so take it for what it's worth. Doing a little bit of cross track, see what he can do at the nickel spot. I'm assuming the defensive line, they were also getting their work in. They were working under that rolling tent, working on staying low, exploding out of the off the snaps, with hand in the dirt, under the tent, explode out, and you have to get around Coach Nua to get to the tackling dummy, which was simulating the quarterback. So it was a speed rush, but you had to get around the edge, coming out of the your hand in the dirt. You also had the guys hitting the sled, and when they released from the sled, they would get a hand up into the passing lane, trying to simulate that. A lot of technical stuff going on. So yeah, good stuff to see during practice. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'll try and get you the film so you can actually get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. Some of the drills that they do. The offensive line as well. Lots of pushing and shoving going on when they were practicing. Not the kind you're thinking about. The kind they're supposed to do. That's what offensive line do. They push, they shove. I liked watching that today. All right, a couple more segments to go here. Let me give you my week one takeaways of the guys who showed up in the summer for fall camp. So USC brought in 40 guys during the offseason. 27 were there in the spring. I'm going to talk about 13 guys who are trying to play catch up. And then the third segment, I'm going to tell you why Makai Lemon did not be USC's punt returner anymore. Yeah, summer sports, full swing. It's all about baseball right now while USC is preparing to open up their football season. So whether you're all about baseball under the lights, like practice was today, maybe you like to golf, maybe you like watching soccer, you like getting in on that high stakes action. FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not? So make every game a little bit more thrilling. With FanDuel, you can do that. You can get in on the game while your friends are hanging out at the beach getting all sunburned. It's easy to use, it's fast to pay out, and it makes even the regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay, maybe you're watching your bet right into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. If you want to be new to FanDuel, perfect time. New customers, if you bet just $5, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. So as I mentioned, USC added 40 scholarship players this past offseason, right? Excuse me. If you want to break that down, you got 24 high school signees. You have Waymon Jordan out of JUCO and 15 guys via the transfer portal. So that's your breakdown. 27 of them took part in spring practice. That means 13 did not, and they're trying to play catch up during the player run practices that happened during the summer, as well as now in through fall camp. So I'm just going to go down the list real quick here, give you a couple sentences, a couple thoughts on each one of them. Let's start with the transfer wide receiver from Utah, Zacharias Williams. I've told you before, Coach Whittingham loves this guy. He would have been their number one wide receiver this year. And when you watch him play, you can see why. He just looks like a natural big wide receiver, 6'2", 200 pounds, but he moves well. The more I watch this guy practice, the more I wonder, why did USC wait so long to offer him out of high school? I mean, he's good, real good. He might be a guy who becomes a household name by the end of the year. That's how good. As I mentioned, Kyle Whittingham, he loved the guy. He said he could play running back if he wanted to. I don't know if he'll play running back at USC, but I definitely think he's going to play special teams. Talk about that in the third segment. Wide receiver, Tanuk Hines. He wears number 16, right? You know who else wore jersey 16? Taj Washington. Similar size, fast. I like Tanuk. By the way, I also like his hair. He had real big hair today. Wow. Wide receiver, Romero Eisen, same thing. Quick, speedy. Both of those guys are somebody you're going to try them out in the slot. That's, I think, where they can probably see the field the soonest. Maybe that's the easiest place to transition if you're a wide receiver. They probably have enough experience on the outside. I know why Coach Trovon Reed likes Chasen Johnson so much, the transfer from Central Florida. Dude's full of energy. He's always ready to practice. I mean, when he bounces out of the Makai Center, runs up the ramp, heads to practice, guy is just ready to go. Bundle of energy. You like that. Linebacker, Tamir Robinson. You like his size. I also like how he practices. Everything is 100%, even when they're saying 60%, 60%. He looks like he's going 100%. And he likes to play with violence. So when you have linebackers who play fast and hard, good combination. Harry Dalton III, running back. Okay, so physically, he's ready to play. I think he still needs to probably work on his pass protection, pass blocking a little bit more. Definitely should probably improve his hands out of the backfield. But when the ball's in his hands, he's electric. I don't know how many reps he'll get this year, but I've mentioned him before on the previous episodes of Locked on USC. I would not be upset if Coach Riley found a couple of trick plays to work him with. Remember, He played quarterback in high school. He can do a lot of stuff. Safety Kennedy Urlacher, the transfer from Notre Dame. When your dad is Brian Urlacher, who was Mr. Football for the Chicago Bears, you know how to play the game, and you know how to play it the right way. That's Kennedy Urlacher. It's going to be interesting to see how much time he can push for this year, because USC's got some good depth at safety. He adds to that. Can he? Don't forget you have Kamari Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald, Christian Pierce, Kennedy Urlacher. You got D. Reddick. Here's another guy who just showed up. But didn't just, but he's one of the later arrivals. He's still trying to get up to speed. And when I'm talking get up to speed, I mean just get up to 100% physically. He's a little dinged up right now. Coach Riley talked about that at the beginning of camp. But if you go back to when Coach Riley was talking about the 2025 class, when they signed back in February, Coach Riley was asked, who are some of the guys who could possibly see early action as a freshman? D. Reddick's name popped out of Coach Riley's mouth. I mean, that fast. He was the first name out. So we'll see. Cornerback, R.J. Sermons. Yeah. Where's jersey number 42? For me, it's weird to see that number 42 playing cornerback. Ronnie Lott. He started his career at corner at USC before he moved to safety. RJ is still filling out a little bit. You can see why he's a natural cornerback, and he doesn't look overwhelmed at all whatsoever. Number 44, number 54. So you've got Matai Tagoai. You've got linebacker AJ Tuatelli. Those guys could swap jerseys and you couldn't tell the difference between them. All I'm going to say about them is, hey, I'm glad they're on the team. I think they have a lot of potential. But while they're not working out at practice, they need to spend their time inside Lil Galen, shoveling food down their throat, working out in the weight room with Trumaine Carroll, Lonnie Maddox, the entire strength and conditioning staff. These guys just need to get bigger. They just need to get bigger. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. They're not ready to play linebacker this year at USC. Gus Cordova. So he looks like he's ready to play, right? But he's got some catching up to do. He wasn't here in the spring. And those 15 practices, I mean, the players who were there in the spring, they have a significant advantage. They know the system. They know what you're supposed to do. I'm not just talking about, the X's and O's, just what everything's all about. So everyone's kind of playing catch up when they arrived in the summer. But look, Gus, physically, he looks like he's ready to play. However, don't forget, there's some big talented guys ahead of him, right? I mean, you got Anthony Lucas, Cam Fountain, Braylon Shelby, guys moving around. Jakeem Stewart. Those were the guys who were at spring. So Gus is going to be a dude. And by the way, I know maybe he broke a nose during practice, but he was wearing some sort of device that looked like a face mask without the helmet, or maybe it was something Bane from Batman would wear. It was it was kind of funky looking. Anywho, Gus Cordova, looking forward to more of him sooner rather than later. And then Jaden Ramos is the other defensive end that arrived in the summer. I talked about him earlier, almost got hit by a car. Look, he looks more like Eric Gentry than a defensive lineman right now. He's around 220, 225. But you can see the frame. You can see what he's going to develop into. I think the challenge for him, if you want to have a true speed rusher, throw him out there. If you're looking for somebody to hold the edge and stop the run, don't have him out there. He's physically not prepared to handle that right now, especially in the big conference. So there you go. There's the rundown of the 13 guys. 1 week into fall camp. We'll check that. I'll keep you updated on what I see and how they're looking as we get closer to kick off against Missouri State. Yeah, 23 more days. That's it. We're that close. 24 more days. We're that close. Wow, time flies. Beat the Bears. Okay, so let me tell you why I don't want Makai Lemon returning punts anymore. Because I think USC has some guys that are more than capable of taking that off of Lemon's plate. It's time to keep him fresh. You want to maximize his wide receiver skills as much as possible. I'm not saying remove him completely from special teams, just punt returner. I would prefer Makai lining up with Josiah Zamora, maybe even Eli Sanders, but Josiah Zamora on kick return. Let Zacharias Williams, let James Johnson, the true freshman from Georgia, let those two battle it out for the punt return responsibility. I'm telling you, Zacharias just looks like he looks natural. Number one, he's very comfortable catching the ball. And even though he's 6'2", 200 pounds, as I mentioned, the guy's got some wiggle in his hips. He can make people miss. And also because of that size, he can absorb the punishment. And that's less punishment that Makai has to endure. See where I'm going with this? It has nothing to do with Makai not being able to do the job. Quite the contrary. I know he can. I mean, that's why he kind of benched Zachariah Branch last year, because he knows how to do the job. But if he doesn't have to, and you want to make sure Makai makes it through all 12 regular season games and deep into the postseason, remember, Chad Bowden says we're recruiting to play 15 or more games per year. Well, this is what he's talking about. Recruiting guys who can handle these types of responsibilities. Both those guys look extremely, extremely comfortable on punt return. There's no need to put all that extra work, all that extra abuse on Makai's body. And James Johnson, he's a true freshman, but this doesn't look like it's his first rodeo when it comes to playing on special teams. Again, he looks very comfortable judging the ball in the air. He doesn't look lost or flustered. I say let's make it happen. And Xavier Jordan, he's still in the mix as well. Those two guys have really caught my attention during the punt return drills. So we'll see what happens. It's just my untrained eyes making this observation. Let me know what you feel. Hit me up in the comments section. By the way, if you're watching this show on YouTube, I'm going to tell you every day. And if I'm telling you this every day and you've heard it from me before, that means you're an everydayer. Why haven't you subscribed yet? It's quick, it's free. Click that red subscribe button. That way you're never going to miss an episode if you click that bell notification. I love your comments. I'll respond to some of them. By the way, tomorrow's episode, I got my Friday rant. I got a couple of things I got to get off my chest. Excuse me. We've talked about one of them before, but it's reared its ugly head again, and I'm getting tired of it. I'm just got to make it stop. So make sure you tune in for that episode. When you're done watching Locked on USC, don't forget you got Brian Smith with the Portal Show. You can catch that on YouTube. And then race on over there to wearesc.com. We have got so much content for you. It's ridiculous. You'll get my notes and observational report, all of it. I can't fit it in, everything here. You'll get Eric McKinney's coverage. You'll get Chris Arledge. You get Scott Schrader's recruiting. And there's a whole bunch of new features. So till the next episode of Locked on USC, everyone, you know what to do.